and welcome to a brand new video where I'm continuing my look back over Series 11 of Doctor Who, my 1 year on or so rewatch of the series, a series that has divided opinion for the last year, that's been hated by some, kind of loved by others, and kind of in the middle by people like me. So I thought it was a good opportunity to see 1 year on whether I still enjoy it, or if I enjoy it more or less or whatever. And so it's time for part 2 today, where we'll be looking at Rosa and Arachnids in the UK. So yes, apologies, this has been slightly longer than kind of I'd hoped it'd be since the last one, but hopefully I'll be able to bring them out a little bit more regularly. As I said in the last video, I'll be aiming to do 2 episodes a video, and then probably one separate one for resolution at the end of the series as well. So today, yeah, we'll get stuck in straight in, starting off with Rosa, which is probably one of the most maybe significant episodes of Series 11, I would say, in terms of the kind of subject matter that it's tackling. Obviously the whole bus boycott of the 1960s, of the mid-1960s with Rosa Parks, and the whole sort of black and white issues and racism in the US and everything like that is such a sort of big, important issue, I think, for Doctor Who to just kind of give its take, well, not give its take on, but tell the story of through the medium of Doctor Who, which can really, I think, get to explain it well to kids, I think, which is really, really important. Because although I know a bit about it, it's probably not a story, not a story, but not a topic that I've really looked into for a long time, since I was probably much younger and sort of in school or something like that. So it's really good to just kind of have that story told again, I think, in the form of Doctor Who. And I personally have never really felt that there's anything wrong with Doctor Who tackling topics like this, significant topics, political topics, whatever you want to call it. I don't think that's ever been a problem for the programme. It's been doing it since the 60s and 70s. Like, it's not like they only started doing it in 2015. That's just not true. So I don't really see, from that point of view, any problems with doing this. And my sort of overriding feeling watching the story again was that it just felt really, really powerful as a story. Sort of the moment when we see Rosa Parks sit down on that bus seat and say she's not going to move, that just feels such a sort of powerful, striking, strong moment. That's so significant, of course, for the whole sort of the future of America and the world ultimately, in terms of black rights and representation in the world. I think it just, I don't know how quite what it was. Maybe it was sort of the music using the pop track over there as well, so within it as well, which is quite different for Doctor Who. But it just felt, in particular, that moment felt so significant to me. It gave me goosebumps on this. It felt really just, yeah, it was that was the defining moment of this episode, and probably one of the biggest moments of this series for me, I think. And that just really, still a year on, came out so vividly for me, and just illustrated as a whole, watching this episode again, how really strong and fantastic an episode it is. I think ultimately this episode didn't really need a villain. It probably, I mean, you would have had to tweak some of the plot to make it needed for the Doctor and co to be there, but I think this was probably the one story in Series 11 where they could have got away with it being a pure historical story. I think the problem with Doctor Who nowadays is that it kind of feels like it has to have some sort of alien or monster in it to keep it interesting for the kids, or whatever you want to use as a phrasing for that. But I think that is a problem that's kind of come in, that just they have to be there. Because I remember, like, The Woman Who Lived back in Series 9, that was another example of a story that didn't need a monster. It had me in it, and that was enough of a sort of alien menace. Well, not alien menace, but a sort of alien idea that they could include in the episode. Whereas introducing the stupid lion character, I can't remember their name now, but it was a ridiculous name. That was not necessary. And I felt, again, that wasn't really necessary in Rosa. Like, the villain was useless, let's be honest. Like, he's a racist. He's just a stupid racist dude who can't even kill anybody because he's not allowed to, because he was in prison and he's got some block in his brain. And he just gets completely easily defeated by Ryan shooting him, which I must say was very weird, and I felt quite uncomfortable with as a character piece of writing in Doctor Who. Like, seeing a companion basically kill the villain in cold blood was, I don't know, it just didn't quite click with me. It didn't quite feel right with me. And for the Doctor to just go like, oh, okay, fine, you've done that, whatever. Like, that seemed very, very odd, sort of a very odd character move for them to write the Doctor and Ryan in such a way there. I don't know, it just didn't work for me, because it doesn't feel like a normal thing that you would see certainly in more current Doctor Who, of a companion just killing a villain and the Doctor's being fine with it. Like, the Doctor always wants to save everybody. Like, that's the Doctor. So I don't know why they chose to go that way. I guess it was just a way of getting the racist out of the way, so they could focus on the whole big finale with Rosa and her and refusing to get up in the bus. That, I think, was obviously why they did it, but it just didn't quite click with me. So I think that's the one negative thing, whereas the rest of the story is overwhelmingly positive. I think it's great that they're not sort of scared of shying away of difficult moments in this story. Seeing Ryan getting slapped around the face and this white American being very, very offensive towards him. They're not sort of willing to, not afraid to kind of sugarcoat that or try and make it not look so bad, or think it's a kid show, so we can't go too far with that. Like, they want to present it as very real of how bad this racism was back then and how big an impact it was for the whole black community, and to be able to just portray that in such a way I thought was really bold from the team, but also pulled off really, really successfully, and I think is required with a story like this. Like, I don't think you could do an episode telling this sort of story and doing some sort of half measures with it, where they're not quite willing to go the full hog in how racist it used to be and all of that. Whereas this, they went for it, they did it, they nailed it, and it was such, I feel like, such a real and accurate and just a proper real life representation of what it would have been like living as a black person in the 60s in America. And to show that, I think, and showing our main protagonist in that way being affected by that, I think is brilliant, and it's something that hasn't really been done enough in Doctor Who in the past, I don't think. So I'm not trying to do a full review of stories in these videos. It's very much just some sort of general thoughts about each story, so I'm not going to go and tackle it too in depth. But this felt like a story that very much people always talked about sort of since it aired. This was the big one. This was the exciting. This was the properly strong, well-written, not great idea, but really important idea tackled episode, and it still holds up to that. It's still one of the. I would really say this is one of the better episodes of Doctor Who. Full stop. Like, this is a really, really good episode, just as a story. As something that a show like Doctor Who can tell that so few other programs could ever even do a story like this. Whereas because it's got this element of time travel and be able to just do anything with the program, you can go back to the 60s and show this in such a way, which is fantastic. And so yeah, overall I think that Rosa is a cracking story. And up until this point in the series, like, I would call Series 11 a very solid and good start to a series. Like, Woman Who Fell to Earth was very good. Ghost Monument was okay. It wasn't awful, but it was okay. And then Rosa is a fantastic story. So 3 episodes in, I'm kind of like, what's the problem here, guys? What's going on? This is all looking really good. But then we come to Arachnids in the UK, which is a weird episode. I don't really know how I feel about this as a story. Like, I know people hate, kind of a lot of people like sort of hate this episode and think it's a bit of a stupid idea that Chris Snow's character is of Robertson, the kind of basically Trump character, is stupid and ridiculous. I don't know, I kind of find him funny in a way. I don't know, maybe I'm just being too nice on this as an episode. I find it quite funny and entertaining. And there's some logic behind the whole story with the spiders being caused by radioactive waste that's all linked back to his building because he's doing it in a really dodgy way with his hotels and stuff. And like, it makes sense. There's some logic to it. I don't think it's brilliant. I don't think it's that interesting a story. I remember one of the criticisms I gave at the time, which I still agree with, is it has way too many main characters in it. Like, you've got, obviously, the Doctor, Graham, Ryan, Yaz's mum, that scientist or university woman who's some clever woman who's literally is Mrs. Exposition, who's just like, here's this stuff about spiders that you didn't know, or the audience needed to know, and that's basically all she served in the whole story, which is useless. And then Robertson as well, and so that leaves you with, what, 7, 8 main characters in a 45-minute story or 50-minute story. You're just never going to give them enough to do, so it was natural that was going to fail. I don't know why you'd write it like that, to have that many main characters, personally, but maybe that's just me, I don't know. It just, yeah, felt like it definitely didn't work from that point of view. There is some, I thought there's, I don't know, there's not really that much full stop to say about it as a story. Like, it just feels very bog standard, okay Doctor Who that's not massively offensive. Is a bit ridiculous with the Trump-like character of Robertson, who just bizarrely walks off at the end, and people have obviously talked about him returning. Maybe is he going to return for a finale with the Daleks and come and team up with them? Like, that'd be bizarre and hilarious, and I don't know why they'd do it, but Tim Shaw came back in the finale, so anything can happen in Chris Chibnall's Doctor Who, let's say. But yeah, I just don't really know what I can actually say about Arachnids in the UK, because it just feels such a just average, unexciting, solid, like, I'm not scared of spiders, so it didn't have that problem for me as a story. There's not really any alien menace in this story at all. In the end, it's just spiders that have been turned radioactive by radioactive wasting and testing and stuff like that. That's it. There is actually no alien threat at all, which is interesting. And some ways I quite like that it doesn't always have to be an alien threat that they're tackling, that it is just a kind of man-made threat that they've accidentally created that's become the threat. I like that. I think that's interesting. They don't do that all the time in Doctor Who. That's good. But that's about all there is to it. There's nothing much else to say. They solve the problem, the end, full stop, bye. Cool, that's it. So yeah, sorry that I'm sounding a little bit blunt and negative. Not necessarily negative, but just very kind of ambivalent. Let's use the word ambivalent, that's a good word, to Arachnids in the UK, because there just isn't anything much to say about it. So rather than waffling on about nothingness, I'm going to wrap it up there and say that Rosa is a cracking 8 maybe even 9 out of 10 story. Arax in the UK is very average. Let's give it a 6, maybe. No, I'm not giving it a 7. Let's give it a 6. 6.5 out of 10, somewhere around there. It doesn't feel. It feels. It's probably the weakest story so far. I'd say it's worse than the Ghost Monument. But again, it's not the nadir of Doctor Who, the worst story there's ever been. Like, it's nothing like that. We've still got the Saranga Conundrum to come next, so don't worry about that, guys. But yeah, so I'll leave it at that for this video, guys. Series 11 up to episode 4, I would call a solid series with 1 highlight in Rosa, 1 good story in When It Fell to Earth, and 2 very average ones. So overall, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this video, this little look into the next 2 episodes of Series 11. I'll be back again in hopefully the next week or 2 to look back over the Saranga Conundrum and Demons of the Punjab, 2 quite varying episodes in quality, shall we say. But apart from that, remember that like button, that subscribe button if you're new here, and I'll see you again very soon for another one. Goodbye!